if you've been watching this channel, you've seen that Bible in the background of most of my videos. And it's time to get that thing out of here. And I'm going to explain that. But I want you to know in this video, I'm going to talk about a few different things. And they may seem unrelated and like I'm going off on a tangent. But if you really pay attention, you'll see how somehow they're intertwined. And I'm ready for this video. This is going to be a great video for you to watch. So stick around till the end. I just got back from working out. Then I went to the bank because I had some business. And one of the tellers in there, they informed me, is single. And this single lady teller, she was asking me if I have any single friends. So there you go, guys. And then after that, I went and I had some fried chicken at Wendy's. And then I met up with my wife, who was having dinner with some of her friends at Shakey's. And then I had some more fried chicken at Shakey's. And one of my wife's friends is a devout Catholic. And I told her to check out this video because it might be of interest to her. So I hope you enjoy this, Hazel. Now, let's get straight into it. I was just checking comments right before this on my other channel. And I have another channel and it has like 400, 500,000 subscribers. And I don't really upload there very often, maybe once every few months. I don't really use it. I don't even check comments on it, but for whatever reason, in the email I saw someone commented on a video from like 6 years ago, a video that I kind of almost forgot that I even did. And I checked at this video and it was just information about travel, because that's what I used to do. I used to do travel videos and give information for travelers. And someone, they very much disagreed with what I said in this video, and that's fine. You can agree, you can disagree, you can like what I have to say, whatever, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. But then at the end, they said, the more videos of yours I watch, the more I see what a clown you are. And on this other channel, I'm very different than this channel because I don't say a negative word about anyone. I don't say a negative word about anything, even if sometimes I have to say some very truthful things, and some people, of course, interpret that as negative. And then when I started this channel, I didn't tell any of my followers on social media or the old channel about this. So it's kind of a secret channel where I could talk about things and get them off my mind while helping you at the same time. And this channel is called Men's Success Bible because obviously men's is in there for it's aimed at young men, because I want to share with you life lessons that I've learned, and even some of the mistakes I've made. If I share them, you can avoid those. And success, because it's a self-improvement channel, not in the sense that we're going to teach you how to buy the perfect tailored suit, or we're going to teach you how to perfectly coif your hair. It's about focusing on the inside, the mentality that's going to help you out. Not necessarily in terms of being successful, in terms of I'm going to go out and make a lot of money after what I've learned on this channel, but it's what success means to me is primarily happiness. Focusing on things that are going to get you what you want and live a happy life. And I know Men's Success Bible, it's a very silly sounding name, but I didn't know what to call it. I wanted something very different than my other channel where I use my real name. And there's a principle. If you want to do something, even if you don't know exactly how to go about, often it's best to just start. Like if you want to get in shape, if you don't know the exact science of diet and exercise, it's better to just start doing something and you'll learn along the way. And I figured, well, I can change the name anyways. But that name alone has been very controversial. And like I said, I used to get a lot of insults on my old channel, which was not even anything negative because I'm very different there. And that I kind of expected, but I quit checking those. And this is the first negative comment I've seen on that channel in a while. And I kind of expect negative comments to come on this channel because, quite frankly, I've talked a lot of smack on this channel. Sometimes I've had to lay things out in an attempt to help you if you want to be helped. And I've had to criticize some people. Now, these are people that are typically public figures. Either they're popular YouTubers or they're a Hollywood celebrity. So they're fair game, and these aren't people that I can sit down with and have a real conversation with. They'll never do that with me. Someone like Alyssa Milano, she'll meet with Ted Cruz, but someone like me, a commoner, would not be important enough for her to sit down and have a talk with. So I feel that these people are fair game. So I do get some harsh comments on this channel, and hey, that's all par for the course. doesn't bum me out whatsoever. And like I said, I've criticized a lot of people. Aside from I found out having the name Men's Success Bible, people judge me very harshly based off that name alone. And it's going to tie into what I'm talking about with this Bible right here. But some of the examples of how I've criticized some people, most often these are really bad guys. And for example, Ben Shapiro, who's a snake in the grass, his whole goal is to subvert you. He's not even like Alyssa Milano, who's very open with who she is and where she stands. His whole thing is subversion. And the whole thing is quite funny to me, too, because who is his audience? Who is the market that he goes after? Who is he trying to be a leader for? And he's trying to be a leader for predominantly white, Christian, middle class, or working class people. And the whole thing is hilarious to me because he's not white, at least not by my definition of white. He's not white. And he's certainly not a Christian. He very openly rejects Jesus Christ. Even though he knows about Jesus Christ, he openly rejects Jesus Christ, and that's a fact. And I don't know exactly why that is, other than he'll just say, well, because I'm Jewish and we don't believe in Jesus. But I kind of get the feeling that he thinks Jesus is stupid, and quite frankly, I kind of get the feeling that he thinks, even though he says he's a very devoutly religious person, even if he's not a Christian, I kind of get the feeling, if you listen to some of the things he says, especially if you look at some of those clips from the Joe Rogan podcast where he knows he's talking to a different audience, a less conservative audience, and he wants to appear to be more rational and middle to the road. I kind of get the impression that he thinks religion altogether is kind of stupid, even though he makes a point to be the character, and he wears the little hat, and he likes to tell people he's religious. I remember one time he had an interview with Bishop Robert Barron, who, if you know who this guy is, and you're at all like a devout Catholic or like a very serious Christian, there's a good chance you don't like this bishop. You think he's kind of a subverter, a snake in the grass himself. And Ben Shapiro said, yeah, the point of the video was, I'm not a Christian. Can I still get into heaven? The short answer was Bishop Barron, this Catholic, he's like, yeah, Jesus is just a bonus or something really silly. It's a whole joke. But Ben Shapiro made a point to say, not only do I follow the 10 commandments, I follow 600 commandments. Oh, really? Can you name all 600? But the other group that he wants to be the leader of is working class people, which if you look at this guy's background, what is his background? It's hilarious. This guy is the son of Hollywood producers, and they teamed him up with another Hollywood producer where they decided, we're going to make this guy a thing. We're going to make his website and his YouTube channel, we're going to invest lots of money. They got a billionaire Wilkes to invest and try and make the Daily Wire a thing. So he's literally a whole Hollywood creation, and he's trying to be a representative for working class people. This is a guy that it seems he's never even had a job mowing the neighbor's lawn for a few bucks. He's never had a job outside of content creation. So he's never had a real job. He just got hooked up with a Hollywood producer because his parents are part of that Hollywood world, which is also hilarious because sometimes his website does these articles about, these Hollywood people, like, look at how arrogant they are. Well, he's one of them. He's the very definition of a Hollywood boy. So that's something about him. Like, the whole thing is jokes. So sometimes I criticize people like that. But going back to this Bible, I've gotten a lot of hate, and like I said, I do say controversial things on this channel, and the name alone, people, I didn't really expect they get so judgmental, because I told you, when I meant it, I didn't even mean it in a religious sense. I got religious a little bit later. If you look at the first videos on this, they're not religious at all. And then having this Bible in the background, it's amazing how many people they've left nasty comments on my videos, without even listening to what I had to say, without even listening to the message, just because they see that book, a children's Bible, one book of many, most of which have nothing to do with religion, This one does. I mean, I display it because I think the cover's artistic. You can see I have Jay Leno's book there, my own book, a novelization of Universal Soldier, Stone Temple Pilots, Purple. I just like that artwork. It's a good album. I like the artwork. But because of that, it's brought so much negativity towards me and my name. And of course, if people actually do listen, this is divisive stuff. Anytime you lay the truth on people and you say harsh things, especially if you're criticizing people that they like, understandably, people are going to get upset and offended. But I have to say, my friends, it's the end of an era. Because going forward, you will not be seeing that Bible in the background of my videos. And I know some people might ask, maybe some people are going to think I'm getting rid of it because of the controversy and the negativity that it draws, and just, like I said, all the criticism. When people see that without even listening to the message of these videos, and they say, he's a hateful Christian bigot, just another one of those Christian bigots, which is ironic because they're really being the bigot and judging me negatively just off the basis of a children's Bible they see in the background or the name of this channel, which they don't understand. But why am I getting rid of this? It's actually because it's not mine. And this belongs to a little boy, my wife's nephew, my nephew actually as well, of course. And we borrowed it about a year ago, last Christmas. And I don't want to get into my whole history with spirituality, but essentially what happened is 5 years ago I started getting into spirituality, and this is because this happened, funny enough, after hearing Joel Osteen speak. And then from there I actually studied a lot of different philosophical, spiritual philosophies and such. Ironically, the one that I didn't really study was Christianity. But then last Christmas I was visiting my wife's relatives, and I was kind of bored, but they had some books, and I picked this one up and I started reading it. And since it's aimed at children, it's very simple to understand. And then I started to get much more interested in Christianity. And then about a week or two later, unexpectedly and prematurely, so it was quite a surprise to me, my son was born. And this is the short answer of how I became religious. And I'm not trying to convert anyone in this. I'm just sharing what helps you and giving you the reason behind it. My son was born, and that's when a lot of people become spiritual or certainly religious. After that, I started studying religion all the time, and I decided I'm religious. And short answer is, it's because when you're a parent and you love someone so much, and you start to see that there's so many things as a human being that are out of your control, you realize you need a little supernatural help, and you need faith in something beyond yourself, because as human beings, we really aren't as powerful as many of us think that we are. So that's how I got into religion very much, but I got to give that back to the rightful owner. I've had it for a year. It's been a great display piece. I'll have to try and find something to replace it. I don't know what. Maybe nothing religious. Hopefully something kind of cool and artistic. But since we're on the topic of religious stuff, I was thinking about a story from the Bible that whether you proclaim yourself as a Christian, whether you're another religion, a Buddhist, a Muslim, whatever, or even if you're an atheist, I think sharing this story, it's going to give you something to really help you, some points to take away. And let's take a look at the story. And as with many things in the Bible, they're not as simple as most people think they are. Let me just shrink this down. They're not as simple as most people think they are. There's many layers to things. So this is the story of, you may have heard of Jesus walking on water. Most people have heard that. But did you know that Jesus was not the only person to walk on water that day? The Apostle Peter did as well. A lot less people, they're not as familiar with that, but there's a lot to learn from this story. And I want to talk about a couple of those. But first, let's look at one of the translations of the story of Jesus walking on water. So basically, this is the scene. His friends, his buddies, they're out in this boat where he told them to wait. They're kind of far off from land. They're in the middle of this lake, and he said, I'll come for you later. And it's about 3 a.m., and Jesus comes for them. And it says, here we are. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, It is a ghost, they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid. And Peter answered him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. And Jesus said, Come. So Peter got out of the boat and walked on water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and he started sinking, and he cried out, Lord, save me. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? So that's one translation of the story. There's various ones. But what is the point of this story? Well, first and most obvious, especially since this is a biblical story, we're supposed to have faith. But faith in what? Well, faith in Jesus Christ, of course. That's the most obvious takeaway from the story. Now, I know a lot of you are not religious at all, and as I said, I'm going to have a point that is going to help you out whether you're religious or not. And I know a lot of you, you're maybe at a point in your life where you're not ready to put your faith in Jesus or whatever, but maybe this is kind of planting the seed, somehow opening you up to it. And even if you have, I think, just a little bit of faith, that's better than none at all. But what's the other point of this story to take away from maybe a more secular perspective? If we look at it from that perspective, what can we learn? Well, think about this. They're out there in the middle of the water, his friends in this boat, and then Jesus comes to them walking on water, and they freak out, because who wouldn't freak out? You see this dude walking on water, and you think it's a ghost. This is some supernatural, crazy stuff you're seeing. And then when Jesus calls out and they realize it's Jesus, their master, Peter, he gets so excited and he runs out of the boat and he's walking on water going to Jesus too. And then what happens? He sees the weather's getting bad. There's this big gust of wind and he looks down at his feet. And then it's like his senses come to him all of a sudden and he realizes, what am I doing? And he's looking at his feet and he's going, I can't do this. I can't do it. This is impossible. And he starts to sink and he's going to drown. And then Jesus, of course, reaches out to him and saves him. Now, what's the point to this? And I'm not here to teach the prosperity gospel or something like that, but we want things in life. We all want things in life, whether it's feelings, experiences, material things. We all have needs and wants. And in one of my recent videos, I mentioned that what Earl Nightingale called the strangest secret, he said, you become what you think about most of the time, or you get what you think about most of the time. So you become what you think about most of the time, or you get what you think about most of the time. And this is true. So your energy flows wherever your focus goes. So if there's something you want, if you keep thinking about it, you should get it, right? Well, that doesn't always happen. Well, why is that? Because the reality is, when we're thinking about something, sometimes we're actually thinking about not getting it. And that's, or the fear, the anxiety that we're not going to get it. And that can be what prevents us from getting what we want. So this is also a story about having faith in Jesus Christ, but then you got to have faith in yourself and faith that you're taking the right actions. And it can even apply to goal setting, where you've probably heard people, if you learned about goal setting, say that it's not enough to set goals. You have to set realistic goals. But what does realistic mean? Well, part of what realistic goals means is you have to believe you can do it or you can get it. So if you're living in poverty, it's not a good goal for you to set maybe immediately to say, by next year, I'm going to be a millionaire. It's not going to happen because ultimately, you don't believe that you can do it. If you've never made $50,000 in your life, you probably don't believe you can go to making $1,000,000 right away. So maybe you believe you can make $20,000 a year. Maybe you believe you can make $30,000 a year. That would be a much better goal because you have that belief in it. So you have to have that belief. And something else that I want to say, going back to faith and being a parent and stuff, and that's kind of how I transitioned. I was telling me and my wife were talking, and I talked about this in a recent video. The worst part I'm finding out about being a parent, the absolute by far worst part, is you tend to worry a lot. We all worry a lot, but when you have a kid, and like I said, you start to realize there's things in this universe that are outside our control. You start to worry a lot because all of a sudden you love someone more than you can imagine loving someone. But this story, it's also a reminder for me as a parent to put my faith in God, to have faith that everything is working out, even if we don't know a way, we don't see a way. And I'm going to be talking about this some more in future videos. But I know you have a lot of situations in your life where you need faith, and I understand too that talking about these are concepts that they make sense to all of us and we can understand them. Hopefully I'm doing a good enough job of explaining that we can understand these things, that you get it. But I understand that it's easier said than done. And there's going to be a test. We're all going to be tested in this life, in this world. And it's easier to talk about this and say these things, but when it comes time to put the pedal to the metal and actually do it, to actually put our faith into action, well, I understand that that's the hard part. And I don't claim to be any better than my audience. I don't sit here and claim to be better than you. I'm just a guy talking into a webcam, sharing things with you that I've learned in my life, and sharing things, even mistakes I've made. Because if you can learn from someone else's mistake instead of you having to make the same mistakes in your life, by all means, that's the better way to go. But also about having faith and being a parent. The one thing that gives me great comfort out of all the scary things in this world and all the fear that you can have, all the things that you can think of that can go wrong, the one thing that gives me comfort is thinking about that after I'm dead, hopefully that won't be for a very long time for me and my family, after I'm dead, I can be in heaven, I can be in the afterlife with friends and family, and you can't take anything from this world to the afterlife with you when you die. But there is one thing actually you can take, and that's your children. So hopefully do a good enough job and things work out right. Someday in the distant future, I'm in heaven with my children, grandchildren as the years go on, and we're all having a good time together, and we're united together in a way that can't even be imagined here. And I was watching a show today called The Pickers on the History Channel. You're probably familiar with it, but they were in Detroit and they were buying items off this guy that collects military stuff. And for $2,200, they bought this really interesting piece. This was a German World War I helmet, and it had a split down the middle, and then there was a painting of it, of how this happened. Apparently, there was American in the trench warfare, these Americans fighting the Germans, and this American guy saw his friend get killed by this German guy. And so this American guy, he took the gun, the rifle, whacked him over the head with his helmet on. It split the helmet, killing the German. And a medic witnessed this, and what he did was he took the helmet and he painted a recreation of that scene of this American hitting the German in the head with the rifle, killing him. I mean, such a creative thing to do, such an odd piece of art, but such an absolutely amazing story. And I got to thinking about these guys, because I'm going to be uploading another video in the future about my grandfather when he was going to go off to fight in World War I. My great-grandfather, that is. When he was going to go off to fight in World War I, as hearing my grandfather tell this story. So I'll upload that in the future. But I got to thinking about these guys, and it's kind of funny because if these guys, the Germans and the Americans, and even the French, whatever, these guys in World War One, if they could see 100 years in the future, what was to become of their country, they would probably say, "What are we fighting for? Why bother? Hey, let's all go to the pub and have a few laughs together." But now they're dead, these guys. Those two guys, the one American and the one German we know from that story, died in the war. The guy that killed the German with his hitting him in the head with his rifle butt, I don't know how he died. We can assume he's dead. Maybe he died in a later battle. Maybe he just ended up surviving the war and died of old age. But one thing that I was thinking about that would be really nice is if these guys, these three guys, they're long dead, we can assume, even the one guy that survived the battle. If they're in heaven, if they're in the afterlife, I'd like to think that these guys could get together somehow and have a few laughs together up in heaven and see how, that in a way that was kind of silly. We were trying to be honorable and do the right thing, fighting for our nations, but now we can see that we're not so different from each other, these guys. Because let's face it, in those days, those guys probably had more in common on their facing off on the battlefield than they have apart. Like I said, if they could see what happened to our countries, they'd probably say, "Well, what the heck? Let's not even bother with that." But I got to thinking, I hope those guys somehow reunited in the afterlife and could somehow come together. And certainly, when I think, it's a great source of comfort when I think about, when I die, when my parents die, when our children, going generation from generation. Sometimes I even like to think maybe hundreds or thousands of years I could meet up with the relatives of mine in the afterlife, God willing. And that provides me with a great source of comfort. And that's the two great things about religion. The comfort knowing that we have a heavenly Father upstairs that's, as a father myself, looking how I look at a child, and now thinking that we have someone up there that looks at us, some sort of great creator that my human mind can't even comprehend. That's a source of comfort. And then the other great thing about religion is it provides a structure for life to help us find success or help us avoid at least a lot of pitfalls that will bring us down. So I know this video has been going on a while now, and we talked about a lot of different stuff, but leave us a comment. I really hope you liked it. If you want to support the channel, there's an affiliate link, there's a PayPal email address where you can contribute something. So hopefully this was of value, and the Bible will be going away, so now you know why. God bless you, my friends.